Hi, welcome. It's Nevaeh here. I have a channeled message that is pretty important. I feel like if you were to subscribe and like, it's important because it gives me a better ability to read for your more personal situation, and it is a transference of energy, so I could be more specific and tap into you. Remember, only pick up what resonates with you through using your intuition and leave what doesn't. I am getting I'm getting spiritual alignment 1111 is what I'm getting. And this is a divine masculine and divine feminine reading. And remember, divine masculine and feminine are not gender specific. They are balances of energy that we all have within ourselves. And that's how I perceive it, and that's how I do my readings from. I get that there is some sort of communication. Yeah, with the Hierophant here. So communication has felt choppy and unclear and difficult for about a month's time. And I feel like it's coming into a better flow since about the 23rd. And that makes sense because the Mercury retrograde has ended. And it wasn't communication with just one person specifically, I think, for this divine feminine specifically. It was with everybody and everything she was doing, even communication for some of her artistic endeavors and creative endeavors was difficult for her during this time. And I understand now that that flow is coming back more naturally for her. So what can I channel for you, beautiful souls? I'm getting a message for divine feminine who's connected to divine masculine. And there is that communication coming through, but I feel like it's not a brand new communication. I feel like it's a communication coming back around, an energy or divine masculine coming back around. And I got the Ace of Cups, which kind of represents that piece, like an open door to romance. And you may be friends, but there is a romantic component here. This masculine is feeling a really deep spiritual fire and pressure that you have somehow put on them through your energy. And I feel like you made a stand for yourself and you rose to a higher version of yourself and left the door open for them to do the same. And I feel like they're responding in a positive way to it. There was a turning point in the communication between you two. Crunch time, or like make it or break it, like a specific turning point where you would evolve into a higher level or leave it. I feel like you made a stance and you were ready to leave and walk away from that relationship if necessary. The throat chakra, which is that Hierophant piece. Not with words. You didn't communicate with words, but through your energy. And you said you can join me there, or you can connect with me there, or you can walk away. And I sense that wasn't easy for the divine feminine. It was quite difficult. Almost like there was some sort of action that happened that you felt disrespected. And it was like a test. Like they were trying to see if they could get the same response from you that they were hoping for, so they didn't have to dive deep into reflecting upon themselves. I got the Magician pulled there, and you were like magic. You stood in your self-worth and said, I'm going to call your bluff, and decided to move forward with a lot of self-respect. That has put a little bit of a fire underneath this divine masculine, because he could choose to rise and meet you there, or he knew that he would lose you forever. And I feel like there's a positive response from that. I get that there was a lot of turmoil, internal turmoil, that you brought up for him, and not purposely, not in a destructive way, but there were things that came up in him from meeting you that he didn't even know existed within himself. I kind of see it like the seabed, like a seabed, and most of it is settled and doesn't move for centuries, if not longer. And it was like meeting you was a tsunami in his life, and it drug up all this feelings of pain and childhood wounds, trauma, and coping mechanisms that he didn't even realize that he had to start with. And it was quite overwhelming for him. And there was some very heavy energy that he needed to work through on his own without you. And a lot of his patterns to deal with it, really the ego got in the way for him quite a bit. And I think he would recognize it and pull back. And when it became overbearing, there was a self-sabotaging pattern to it. I see now with the Ace of Swords that he's making a journey of something in concrete, that there is going to be movement forward. And I got the Charity too, that he's moving forward with actions. So for the divine feminine that I'm speaking to, it's imperative that you hold yourself with self-respect, but also provide an open air for this masculine who's making those changes to come forward with you and to rise up into a higher timeline with you. I feel like they consciously and unconsciously sabotaged the relationship. Sometimes it was overwhelming. There was a reset back to patterns that felt less pressure. You know, we are really a species of the path of least resistance and of pattern and habit. So I feel like sometimes when you upgrade to, there is that final push, that final test that tests where you really want to be in your life and where you want to go. And I get that the divine feminine passed that test. And I think that it was a bit of a shock to the divine masculine. I think he thought that you would repeat in the patterns that you had been in with him. For this masculine, the subconscious part was some of these responses of how he goes about his daily life can be intertwined in his career, because he's very career focused, and a lot of his time goes towards that corporate nature. And he put on such a good front and show that I think that he even put that front up for himself and didn't know parts of himself. And when you came in, then he learned about parts of himself and was kind of shocked. And it was difficult for him to work through that reflection. I do get that there's positive movement forward, and that you should continue to hold firm and make sure that you respond only when you have actions and not just believe and fall into words. And I feel like there's that concrete part here of 3D, of real physical actions coming to fruition, perhaps behind the scenes. If you reflect with this and yourself and you resonate, click the link in the bio and I'd be happy to expand.